Cold weather changes the way the body feels long before it causes pain or obvious discomfort. Movements that felt normal a few weeks ago suddenly feel slower, heavier, or less fluid. You may notice stiffness when you stand up, reach for something, or turn your head, even though nothing actually hurts. This sensation often appears quietly and gradually. Many people assume it means their body is getting weaker, or that something is wrong. In reality, it's a very common response to cold. The body doesn't move through cold the same way it moves through warmth. Understanding why this happens helps explain why winter often feels physically different, even when we stay indoors and don't feel especially cold. Cold changes how the body moves, not just how it feels. Cold weather doesn't only affect sensation. It changes how the body prepares for movement. When temperatures drop, the body becomes more cautious with energy and motion. Muscles, joints, and connective tissues respond more slowly, not because they are damaged but because the body is prioritizing stability. Movements that are usually automatic require slightly more effort and attention. This creates the impression of stiffness, even without tension or pain. The body is not resisting movement. It is simply less eager to move quickly or loosely. This shift often goes unnoticed until you compare it to how you move in warmer conditions. What feels like reduced flexibility is often a change in responsiveness. The body is adapting to cold by favoring control over ease, which makes movement feel more deliberate and less fluid. Muscles aren't the only thing involved. The sensation of stiffness is often blamed entirely on muscles, but muscles are only part of the picture. Movement involves a complex system that includes joints, connective tissue, and the nervous system. Cold affects all of these layers at once. Joints may feel less mobile, connective tissues less elastic, and signals between the body and the brain slightly slower. Together, these changes create a unified sensation of rigidity. This is why stiffness can feel widespread rather than localized. It's not a single tight muscle, but a general change in how the body organizes movement. Because this response is subtle and system-wide, it can be difficult to describe or pinpoint. The body simply feels less ready to move freely. This doesn't mean something is wrong. It means the body is adjusting how it coordinates movement in a colder environment. Why stillness makes stiffness worse. Cold alone doesn't fully explain why the body feels stiffer in winter. Stillness plays an equally important role. During colder months, people tend to move less without realizing it. More time is spent sitting, working indoors, or staying in one position for long periods. When the body remains still, circulation slows and tissues receive fewer signals to stay responsive. In warm conditions, even small movements happen naturally and frequently. In colder conditions, the body settles into longer periods of inactivity. This makes stiffness more noticeable when movement finally happens. Standing up, stretching, or turning suddenly requires the body to transition from rest to motion, which feels heavier and less fluid. The stiffness isn't caused by a lack of strength. It's caused by a lack of gentle, continuous movement that usually keeps the body feeling ready. Cold amplifies this effect, but stillness is what allows it to build. The body conserves energy in cold weather. In cold environments, the body naturally becomes more economical with its energy. This isn't a conscious decision. It's an automatic adjustment. Heat production and movement both require energy, and in colder conditions the body prioritizes maintaining core temperature. To do this, it subtly limits unnecessary motion and reduces how freely energy is spent on movement. This conservation doesn't feel like fatigue. It feels like restraint. Movements become more measured, less spontaneous. The body chooses stability over ease. This is why even simple actions can feel slightly heavier or more deliberate in cold weather. The sensation of stiffness is often the body signaling that it's operating in a more cautious mode. Once warmth and movement return consistently, this mode gradually fades. Until then, the body continues to protect itself by moving more carefully and efficiently, even if you don't consciously feel cold. Clothing and layers change how the body moves. What we wear in cold weather changes not only how warm we feel, but also how the body moves. Layers add weight, resistance, and pressure. Even when they are light or flexible, the body has to move through fabric, seams, and multiple surfaces instead of open space. This subtly alters posture and range of motion. Shoulders lift slightly, movements become shorter, and joints don't travel as freely as they do in lighter clothing. Over time, this creates a background sensation of restriction. The body adapts by moving more cautiously and efficiently, which reinforces the feeling of stiffness. This doesn't mean layers are bad or wrong. It means the body responds to them as part of its environment. When clothing limits feedback in movement, even gently, the body adjusts by prioritizing control. That adjustment is often felt as reduced flexibility, even when the muscles themselves are not tight. Why warmth alone doesn't always fix it. It's tempting to assume that stiffness disappears as soon as the body feels warm. In reality, warmth doesn't always restore ease of movement right away. The body doesn't switch modes instantly. Even after coming indoors or adding layers, the nervous system may continue operating in a cautious state. Movement patterns established in cold conditions tend to linger. This is why stiffness can persist even in a warm room. The body needs time and gentle signals to return to a more relaxed mode of movement. Simply increasing temperature addresses only one part of the system. Coordination, responsiveness, and ease return more gradually. This delay can feel confusing, especially when you expect warmth to solve everything. In practice, the sensation of stiffness fades not when the body becomes warm, but when it feels consistently safe, supported, and free to move again. Why the body feels different indoors versus outdoors. One of the most noticeable parts of cold weather stiffness is how different the body feels when moving between environments. Outside, the cold is clear and expected. The body prepares for it. Movements are cautious, posture adjusts, and the body stays alert. Indoors, the temperature changes quickly, but the body doesn't immediately follow. Muscles may be warmer, but movement still feels restrained. This contrast can make stiffness feel even more noticeable. The body is no longer responding to cold air, yet it hasn't fully released its protective mode. Sudden transitions, stepping inside, sitting down, standing up again, highlight this delay. The body needs time to recalibrate. Until it does, movement can feel awkward or heavy, even in comfortable conditions. This difference between environments isn't a failure to adapt. It's a sign that the body changes gradually, not instantly, especially when conditions shift quickly. This is a sensation, not a problem. It's easy to interpret stiffness as something that needs to be fixed. But in many cases, it's simply a sensation, a message, not a malfunction. The body is responding appropriately to colder conditions by moving more carefully and conserving energy. This response is protective, not harmful. It doesn't indicate damage or decline. It reflects adaptation. When stiffness is viewed as a problem, it often creates tension and frustration. When it's understood as a temporary state, it becomes easier to accept and work with. The sensation usually fades as warmth, movement, and familiarity return. Recognizing stiffness as part of the body's natural adjustment helps reduce unnecessary concern. The body isn't failing in cold weather. It's doing what it has always done, adjusting its behavior to the environment in order to stay balanced and safe. Why some people notice it more than others. Not everyone experiences cold weather stiffness in the same way. Some people barely notice it, while others become very aware of even small changes in how their body moves. This difference is not about strength or fitness. It's about sensitivity. Bodies vary in how quickly they register changes in temperature, pressure, and movement. People who are more attentive to bodily sensations often notice stiffness sooner and more clearly. Daily routines also matter. Someone who sits for long periods or moves very little may feel stiffness more intensely than someone whose day includes frequent, natural movement. Climate history plays a role as well. Bodies accustomed to warm environments often react more strongly to cold. None of this means that one response is better or worse. It simply means the body is communicating in its own way. The sensation itself is common. The level of awareness varies. What feeling flexible really means. Flexibility is often associated with stretching or physical ability, but the feeling of being flexible is something else entirely. It's a sense of readiness. When the body feels flexible, movement doesn't require preparation. You stand up, turn, or reach without hesitation. Cold weather interrupts that sense of readiness. The body becomes more deliberate, more careful. Feeling flexible again doesn't mean forcing movement or eliminating stiffness instantly. It means allowing the body to return to a state where movement feels safe and easy. This usually happens gradually, as warmth becomes consistent and movement feels familiar again. Flexibility in this sense is not a permanent trait. It's a temporary state that reflects how comfortable the body feels in its environment. When conditions change, so does that feeling. And when the body adjusts, ease returns naturally.